trustees coming. You heard from them?
I haven't, but I didn't hear otherwise. We saw him yesterday.
You did?
Yeah. Oh, man. And I didn't realize how quickly.
I thought that
I thought we were a little bit earlier. Just
We got 8 here. Okay, let's go ahead and get started if we could. We have a few absentees, I guess, for the spring break and et cetera. So welcome, everyone. I believe we have a quorum looking around the room. We will call the meeting to order at this point in time for the Downtown Lexington Management District for Wednesday, April the 4th, 2018. We will first start with our consent agenda, which we have a motion approving the minutes of the regular board meeting of March 7th, 2018, which you should have in front of you, as well as a motion for the approval of the financials, which are also attached and in front of you. Do we have any questions or comments about any of those two particular documents?
Any surprises in the financials? I was just staging over.
I did not see anything. They jump out to you, Catherine or Terry?
No, just our regular monthly expenses, like the internet, Kentucky American Water, and then some remaining revenue from the
And a
tax.
forecast was being created.
Yeah, you work on forecast?
Cash flow, yeah.
Cash flow, yeah. We're pretty much done with our revenue. I mean, we'll have a few stragglers, but I get a check or two from Don Blevins, but the bulk of it is in, so that's pretty much it. Any other questions? The Chair would entertain a motion to approve both those matters. Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We will now go to the agenda number 5, which is the public forum. Anybody have anything they want to talk about before we go into the specifics of the agenda? Okay, good, I suppose. All right, Terry, I'm going to let
Good.
you have it.
All right. Well, I'm going to, again, have a presentation. We have a couple things that we really want to bring you up to date on that I think are exciting. And so I'm going to go down this way. My red dot.
I'm going to say something to you. Oh, make this like a damn council meeting.
Okay.
Shit.
Okay, you're off mic.
Oh, good. So I can say just about anything I want then?
You can do the presentation from this location?
Yeah.
Terry, out of curiosity, how many of those do you drink today?
I'm curious about that too.
No one believes that, Terry. No one.
It's diet, so it's nice.
We've done a poll. There's no way. There's no way there's just one a day.
One and out.
He drinks. Sometimes it's the great big one.
That's a voting
Okay. Hey, we had our board retreat and public open house. That was March 21st. March 21st. I want to kind of recap that and then talk about what happened after our board retreat and then some steps coming up of what we're going to continue to do. At the board retreat, we had, it was a joint retreat, and between the two boards, we have 26 members. So we have 15 on this board and 11 on the DLP board. So at the actual retreat, we had 20 folks that attended and participated. So pretty good representation. For those that weren't able to attend, anyone here in that category? Anyone here? Yeah, oh, but you were able to come to the open house and I got a briefing, but anyone else? We're going to have some other opportunities maybe for you guys to participate. So I'll reach out to the folks that weren't able to make it. Remind folks about the goals that we're trying to do, that we wanted to make sure that we understood our customer, that we understood our organizational culture and our partnership. And we're going to spend a little more time on that again today because, essentially moving forward from here on the next 90 days, we all got to stay on the same page and come to real commitment of, yeah, this is it. So this is where the rubber meet the road. We're going to develop strategies and priorities, set a challenging but attainable agenda, and then one of the most important things, and we'll talk more about that today, is engaging our stakeholders and educating them and making sure they understand who we are, what we do, and why, and that they agree with our direction and our priorities. So, as I mentioned, we had 20 folks come to the board retreat, and for folks that weren't there, most of you were, yeah. Started with a presentation on market data, really, about our customer through the surveys we did and the economic impact. But we spent in some ways during that presentation, a fair amount of time of, okay, here's what we're proposing is our structure moving forward. And what we're trying to really accomplish with that, we wanted to clarify our roles and the funding, make sure we understand where our funding comes from, and coordinate between our funders and advisors, and then come up with a structure that matches our new comprehensive mission. And so hopefully the benefits are, I say now as a group, right, we have 2 organizations, but we have a common mission and a shared vision and one point of accountability and execution. So that's kind of what we're trying to get to, and so that's what this reflects. I sometimes call it the tip of the spear. We're the execution part of it, and that's the partnership. We're able to function because we get funding, advisory, and board members from the organizations in the orange. But we execute, and we execute through a staff and contracted workforce. This is our current structure, but we have to continue to build. And so we are in the process right now of hiring a finance manager and office manager. And then this area that really is headed up by Ethan, it's just Ethan. So Ethan and I are kind of really doing this part here. And so that's our structure moving forward. And so we'll come back to that here in a second. Any questions on that? Since you all were at the retreat or got briefed, you probably don't have too many questions. But any comfort level? Shake yes, 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 yes. Good? All right. Then we followed it up with our advisory board, the Downtown Lexington Partnership Advisory Board. They came in at lunch, and we did that same presentation, but instead of going through with them station by station by station, we just kind of said, okay, we're going to spread out, and you guys kind of work your way, kind of a self-guided tour in that regard, because they only had an hour and a half to go through this. But they participated and did a good job of giving us feedback and kind of making sure that we were on the right track. And by the way, 25 folks came through during that part of the day. So far we've started at 7:30, and then by 1 o'clock we had 45 folks we had engaged in this process. Then opened our doors, and this is where the kind of the fun part. And if you guys remember, if you look at these pictures, these are just the sheets up, right? There was no illustrations or anything like that. Well, after we were done with the lunch, staff got to work, and we added stuff. We put up the presentations, we put up pictures, we connected the dots for folks, kind of thing. And so we tried to bring what we did in the morning and early afternoon to life, so that people, when they came in, could kind of understand better. With this early group, you kind of understand what we do and why, and kind of how it all works together. But we're trying to kind of bring it more to life through pictures in the evening. And by the way, we had 200 folks come through. So now we're up to about 245 folks that we had engaged in this process. But guess what? That's still not enough. So if you remember, one of our guiding principles is we want to be an inclusive, focused type of organization. We want to make sure that this is everyone's neighborhood. So as we were doing an assessment, we felt that in District 1 and District 2 that we didn't have good representation. So we've reached out to Joe and to James, and we're hosting a follow-up open house just like this. And it will be April 16th at Bluegrass BCTC. That's the easiest way to say that. So we'll do the same thing, kind of like a 2-hour kind of open house, and they'll help host that. And so hopefully we'll get some really good participation from their neighborhoods. In addition, then, we're going to continue that because we thought that some other geographies and other groups of stakeholders weren't represented, and we think that they were important. And so on April 24th, we're going to do kind of the same thing that's more like what we did for the advisory board. In fact, it'll help the advisory board. So in the morning, the advisory board meets April 24th, our advisory board. We only had half of those people there, so we want to get the other half there. Go through the same thing. And then we want to invite the distillery district stakeholders in for a late coffee. So we'll meet at like 8. And so from 8 to 9:30, we'll have the advisory board. And then at like 9:30 or 10, we'll bring in the bar owners. Can't do it any earlier than that. And they'll come in for a coffee and Red Bull, get themselves kind of going so that they'll understand that, hey, this new geography that we're talking about, and again, we're utilizing essentially the DDA geography of downtown. You're part of it. We need to work to connect you and help support what you do here. And so we'll work with them. And then later that evening or for lunch, we haven't decided yet, we think it's important that we have the commercial real estate community highly engaged, and that will eventually become our real estate roundtable group. And so we'll do that same thing because they got to help us build the product and sell the product, right? So they better understand what we do, and if they don't like what we're doing or if we miss something, we better understand that because they're our sales force, right, to a certain degree. So we're going to bring them in. And then we're either going to do it the same day or at another location. We want to bring in the Downtown Residents Association's presidents, and then anyone from their neighborhoods who want to come in and do that. So that'll get us pretty good with the geography, and then we're working to have something in May, a little late, with Transy, with their summer semester folks, because we just can't fit it in with the spring semester folks, and then hopefully UK. So, and then hopefully some of those folks we can continue to engage and keep part of our process, because if the students think it's a cool downtown and it works for our students, then there'll be long-term customers hopefully moving forward and stuff like that. So, so that's just the engagement process. A parallel process is we will begin to start to kind of dump this stuff into a plan. It almost looks like one if you kind of put it together, but we need to kind of clean it up a little bit more and make it more concise probably, and make sure it's organized so it flows well. But we'll create a 3-year plan and 1-year work plan. And then it'll be just a Word document. And that Word document, we got to get through our approval processes. And who I'm hoping approves it is, it'll be this board, and then the DLP board, and then Kevin's helping me try to figure out the proper process to have the council at least acknowledge it, or we think a resolution of support for the plan maybe. And so that would all happen by May. So next meeting, my goal is we come back with a plan, and before that, we'll sit down with everyone, probably in groups of 2, and kind of go over it. So when you get to the meeting, you'll understand what we're talking about and have some comfort level. And then by late May, early June, the city does their process. And so when our fiscal year starts July 1, we have our 3-year plan, our 1-year plan, our 3-year projection of budget, and our 1-year actual budget we will have approved. And then we'll kind of be off to kind of implementing stuff. And so as part of that then, what I would hope we get to is that the DLP, or I'm sorry, DLMD, the alphabet soup of organizations, the management district has a contract that we have that's tied to a scope of services. And it's essentially takes what you did in January as a resolution and makes it a contractual relationship that you're holding us accountable to implement the things that we've said we would do in the plan. And so that way, again, it's all about, I guess, transparency, clarity of understanding of roles, and accountability of what we're supposed to be doing. And so that's how it'll work. And that's how the structure then will work. Any questions on that? We'll let it absorb. And by the way, so this seems like it might be going fast, you know. But so if during this process people start going, wait, this is, wow, let me catch up to this, then we'll slow it down, right? Because we still kind of have a general understanding of where we want to go. But if the process has to catch up where people have to get comfort, we'll do that. But in lieu of that, I want to keep pushing us forward, herding the cats, because I'll just kind of say what I said at one of my first board meetings here is the clock is ticking for you guys. And it's really important that we start trying to show some significant results. And with that, in the 3-year plan, 1-year work plan, that renewal process, the eye towards renewal process, will start July 1. We have to start figuring out, okay, do we need a consultant to help us? And what are key points that we need to drive home of why this levy district, this management district, is important, and how do we begin to package what we what we've achieved so far, and what we're going to achieve in the next 2 years, and what it means for the next 5 or 10 years. So we've got to start figuring that out and start, as I say sometimes, giving them the Kool-Aid right now, not waiting until the last 4 months or 6 months. So it'll start getting real come July 1. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay. So we're going to give a couple updates on some things that we've been working on, and I'm going to turn it over to you. Sure. Good.
So as Terry mentioned, we're updating you on a lot of things that we've kind of touched on over the past few months, and so it's kind of exciting to really fill in the details a bit. And 2 key focus areas for both the management district and for DOP as a whole are security and beautification. Cleanliness and beautification we'll get to in a minute, but security is one of the things we wanted to really kind of explain what we're doing this summer, and well, this spring really, moving forward a little bit faster. So whenever we first started talking, both with the management district and as we started organizing roles for the organization, this was a big issue, in particular in the core of concerned businesses and stakeholders of safety downtown. And so if you remember a couple months ago, the management district approved funding for some more safety ambassadors to join David's team. But we also wanted to look at it holistically on what we needed to do as an overall program to maybe address some of the key issues. So we started by sitting down with some of the business owners who were most affected, with our police, Office of Homelessness, Parking Authority, and a few others to really kind of dig into the issues, and really narrowed it down to trying to address problems with our aggressive panhandlers and some of the troublemakers that were really doing illegal behavior that maybe just a dozen to 15 people essentially that were causing a lot of problems in our core of our downtown. And looking at how we do this, a lot of those are not necessarily homeless. It's important to point that out, that a lot of the aggressive panhandlers are people approaching people at parking stations. But we want to do it in coordination with the Office of Homelessness and with our police. So we looked at addressing it in the trouble areas of the parking lots where people are going to pay stations, in particular the private surface lots, and harassing people for money or offering to help them get their ticket to park their car and then demanding money after that. The sidewalks are another issue, which are a little bit more difficult to police. And then inside the businesses themselves, where we have people essentially busting into restaurants and businesses and not leaving unless they were given money or food or whatever they might be asking for. So In addition to the safety ambassadors that David has, we were working with the Office of Homelessness to find a way to actually staff some of these parking lots and address that piece of it. Having essentially parking attendants that were second chance employment from a coordinated effort with the New Life Center and Polly at the Office of Homelessness, so that we can actually vet some people who might need some part-time work but are really just trying to get reintegrated back into the workforce. And so what we would do is we would contract with those second chance employees through block by block, and so that they would be stationed at the 4 problem parking lots along Short Street. This is kind of the initial, and this is between Broadway and Limestone, so that's kind of our initial target area where we've had the most problems. Those people would be supervised by our safety ambassadors that we have as part of David's team, so they'll be in constant communication with people on the ground, so then we're not just putting them out there and leaving them. And then that kind of covers those lots with somebody in the vest, hopefully making people feel a little more secure, and also serving as an ambassador to help them work the pay stations, which is still just an operational problem. Kind of going along with that, we need to make sure that we're making sure that the people that are harassing our customers are, addressed. And so they shouldn't be on those lots or on the private property. And so we're working with the lot owners and SP Plus Parking, who administers most of those lots, to actually be willing to file trespass charges against the people causing some of the problems. And that goes for inside the businesses as well. If they've been asked to leave, then they need to hold them to that. And so we've been also working with the police to identify some of the problem people that cause the most trouble. And we'll start with those and then be on the lookout for those people. As part of that, training is a big piece as well. And so we have a lot of restaurants that might have younger employees. So if you have somebody that has a 17 or 18-year-old hostess and is all of a sudden confronted by people, they may not know exactly what to do, or they may just be willing to say, here's $5, here's some food, take this, which is not really helping the situation. It causes problems for Polly's office and the Office of Homelessness and what they're trying to accomplish. And so we really need to actually provide some training to let a lot of the staffs know exactly how to handle the situations. And so we've been talking with our downtown officers about coming into the bars and restaurants, doing a quick 30-minute overview of here's how you handle these situations, here's who you call if there's a real problem, and giving them an opportunity to find some other way of dealing with them. Part of that may be a donation program where you say, instead of giving money to these individuals, put it into this program that's helping pay for the employees that are staffing these lots. The final piece of that is kind of the physical environment and looking at how we make the feel of these areas a little more safe. And so if you have a parking lot, it's going to be a little bit darker. You don't have the building light. And, so increasing the lighting and trying to get to some of the feel a little bit better. And so we've talked with SP Plus about that as well, even if it's just adding some bright overhead lights in the lots themselves. And so the plan for this is David's team to come on board April 15th, start training, getting integrated into downtown. And then in May, we would start the second chance employment and the parking attendant service. And then we would run that at a minimum through October for our first grant that we've received from the Office of Homelessness. That's a lot there.
Is SP Plus paying for their lights?
Yes. Or at least they've indicated that they're willing to upgrade light.
What about the lot owners? Are they putting any skin in the game at all? You got 4 lots you referred to. What are they paying, if anything, for this enhancement on their property?
So right now that would be coordinated through SP Plus, and we've not gotten that far in terms of lighting and improvements to the lots themselves. We're asking them to long-term, improve some of the pay stations that are a little bit out of date, short-term to improve the lighting.
But don't these parking attendants enhance the experience on their lots? You think that they want or should put something in the game, don't you think, Terry?
Yeah, so we'll be working with them to, the way I'm kind of putting this is, we have a second chance employment opportunity that we need support for. So they will hopefully provide a investment in that. So we're still determining that, as well as what we're trying to do is also get the businesses to think about this is kind of a what I call a positive, taking a negative and making it a positive, right? So right now you have individuals that are giving money to the panhandlers just when they come in. It's like, oh, here's $1 now, go away. Now what we want to do is engage these business operators and property owners and say, why don't you as a company give to the program and get your employees, if they want to give, to match, so that they create a match program, and it's an organized giving program to this program. And so we do that also with SP Plus. And so, in some ways, they're benefiting, so hopefully they'll do a little bit more. But really, this is a second chance employment grant, so that we could have them doing just about anything. But right now, we think the most important thing is for them to help be a presence, a visible presence, at the point of where our customers are being accosted, essentially. And so that's where they're being utilized. So we're still working to develop the private sector partnership part of it. But right now, we're just getting started. We still have to execute a contract with Pauli and that office, and we're still reviewing that contract. And then want to make sure people understand that they will be employees of Block by Block. So, and then they will be managed by a higher level operator, this safety ambassadors and David. So they'll be watched after. And so we think it'll hopefully be a pretty well organized project.
The nice thing about
Jim's question though, because I support the effort, okay? But have we had any conversation with some of these private lot owners yet to see whether we even think they're going to buy in to
Yeah,
this?
so we've worked with SP Plus. They've been at the table. We've been coordinating with them, and they've talked about lighting enhancements and also the possibly improving some of their technology. One of the things that they're looking at is pay by phone, so folks don't even have to leave their car. I would try to continue along this path. I'd like to see them in the next fiscal year apply for some of the grants and invest in their parking lot to make it more aesthetically pleasing, because those lots are tired looking, and I call it parking lot blight. And so we got to help try to figure out how we beautify those so that the actual environment looks better. And so, we're just getting this started. In some ways, the public dollars are the first dollars in, and we got to continue to build the partnership. The reason why we have to build that partnership is it's got to be sustainable. The initial grant is only going to take us through October. If we think this is a good idea, guess what? We got to start getting folks to invest in it. So we'll build that partnership, because that's the only way to sustain it.
it gives us a proof of concept, essentially.
Yeah, really quick. How are you screening the second chance employment folks?
So they'll do. We'll work with New Life and Polly's office to do that, and then Block by Block also does their own chances. So if anybody has any seriously violent background, they would be eligible.
What I was going to ask, will we have a chance to, the people that they might have that they think going to work, will we have a chance to talk with them before they're hired or not?
So let me clarify. So we have a pool that will come from New Life. They will have to go through the exact vetting process that Block by Block does throughout the country. They have done this as second chance employment. So they are employees of Block by Block. We're having a pool that comes from New Life Services. We are getting a grant to fund it. So it is Block by Block, their plug and chug type of thing, and they'll do that vetting. For these second chance opportunities, they do change so that they allow, and normally they wouldn't allow anyone who's had certain offenses and things like that, but they'll allow this for this type of a process.
And we've worked with the Block by Block regional manager as well to talk, who oversees a number of different cities, to get his input on what he's seen in programs like this across other areas that they work. So we're not coming into it completely blind, and he can help. He's in contact with David as well frequently, and can help explain some of the stuff that they've done elsewhere.
I will just put a plug in real quick, David. If for any reason we don't have a pool big enough from this portion. We've started investing at the city, as the vice mayor knows, quite a bit in workforce training each year. So we probably have some organizations like Jubilee Jobs and others who, if we can't meet the need here, totally could probably also be a conduit for possibilities.
That's a possibility, yeah.
What was that organization?
Gary, what is it? Gary
Jubilee
Plummer?
Jobs.
Gary Plummer.
Uh,
He and I are already in touch with each other.
okay.
I've had one person from, that I've dealt with him on. Will there be, for the second chance people, would it be uniforms, would it be anything different as far as uniforms go? Something that stands out more, or will it be the same as what we have now?
You don't stand out enough?
They might want something brighter.
Be similar to the safety ambassadors. We'll want something distinguishing, I guess, the ambassadors kind of as more managers, but it'll be something bright, neon, say security.
Well,
Does that-
and I think your question is, will they be purple or something different? They will be something different.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be, I think, hopefully bright yellow, probably say safety ambassador or whatever, but the supervisors and the parking lot will have the same uniform. So they will look like they're on the same team. So folks hopefully will know that, part of the thing is we want to make sure that a uniform presence, and if they know that they're security and they're up to no good, guess what? They start clearing out. And that's what we want. So we want to see them coming from a mile away and that, oh, that guy's in that parking lot, I'm not going to go there, right? So they will be very visible. By the way, we'll provide them with some tourism type training and make sure that they're equipped to understand, oh yeah, so if you need to go here, you can go here, or blah, blah, blah. Hopefully by that time, we'll also very shortly, through our branding process, have maps and things. So it'll be a customer-friendly oriented presence. But, and by the way, we've had, as Ethan said, meetings with police, both the new downtown commander, as well as the bike and special ops folks. They're all very excited about this. I think we're kind of hitting the mark. They're at the table helping us train the businesses. And so if you kind of think about this for a second, back up, we have a positive message in, hey, we've created a second chance opportunity, employment opportunity that's going to help hopefully a pool of maybe in the first 6 months, 15 to 20 second chance folks. In addition, we're creating a customer-friendly presence to help our visitors find their way to their destination. And then we're providing a visible presence throughout that area of the entertainment district. And hopefully building that partnership that's sustainable by getting the businesses to invest alongside this program and keep it going.
Yeah, and go ahead.
Is it like a peak night only staffing model, like Thursday, Friday, Saturday?
That's a good question. So we're looking at initially Wednesday through Sunday, and then lunch through dinner. And so we're trying to cover a lot of hours. But it's an iterative process. So as we see times that we may need to adjust, say we need to get them there at 11 instead of 11:30, or stay till 10 instead of 9, we can make adjustments for that. But we're trying to cover the peak lunch and peak dinner of most of the week. And the locations as well are another thing that as we get into the process, if we need to shift some people around, we have the flexibility to do that. But we wanted to start here and kind of build the program from this point. Any other questions on that, or anything you think we're missing?
I do think we'll want to see if these 4 lot owners put some skin in the game in this deal, because they're getting a disproportionate benefit, which we're glad to do. But I think that they're going to get that benefit. They need to step up themselves and not just let the grant and or our own services fly. Who are the 4 lot owners, or the 4 owners, off the top of your head?
I don't off the top of my head. I have a list at the office. But
Okay.
And they're managed by SP Plus, but
All the lots are, the 4
Yeah.
in question are?
yeah. And then one of the other things that we really haven't talked to, we think actually it might be 5. So we talked to Gary, and so we think the Victoria Garage also would be helpful. And again, when we've talked about this partnership and this positive thing, and getting private investment, we're also talking with Gary about maybe creating unique meters for people that promote the program, that people can put their change and dollars in to support the program. So we're building that all up so that, again, that we can make it sustainable. And the initial grant is pretty substantive, and so we think we can at least go through October, maybe further. And so we'll continue to build that partnership.
And also important to point out that the lot attendants themselves are funded strictly from the grant. And so it runs through block by block, but not any of the management district funds, whereas the management district funds cover the safety officers that do the broader patrols and oversee.
Are we looking for that? The safety ambassador end up being year round eventually?
Oh, you mean
The new hires?
The folks? So the new hire. So you have the grant program that's called the Second Chance Parking Attendants and the Safety Ambassadors.
No, I'm just talking about the
Yeah, Safety Ambassadors.
alone.
With our 3-year budget, or 3-year plan and 1-year work plan, that would be our thought process.
Subject to board approval.
Yeah, and just on an additional thing, one of the things we're also taking a look at for the 3-year plan, 1-year work plan, is an off-duty police bike patrol or walking patrol to augment. So if you think about this, we have to call 911 if we have an issue. Maybe it'll be better enhanced if we have at times an off-duty patrol that's helping this safety presence, security presence. We had a bike patrol, off-duty police bike patrol in Indianapolis that started, and also in Corpus Christi, and had in Corpus Christi one that was kind of geared towards the evening and the bar scene, so that as people were going to and from their cars and stuff, they felt safe. So that's something we'll just take a look at. But I think we have a good kind of foundation if this works out to build from. And we'll just see budget-wise and priority-wise how that stacks up with what everyone wants to do.
Any other questions?
Okay.
So I think it's your turn again.
Bike share. So just kind of want to update folks that if you remember, we kind of chatted a little bit about that last meeting, just an update. We had a steering committee that met in January. We're still kind of working through the process. Make sure folks know that there's it's what's called dockless, and all the bike share operates by pay it by phone, and then you can park it hopefully in an area that's geo-fenced. You can't end your ride unless it's in a certain area. Now, these are coming all across the country right now, and in a lot of cities you can't prevent what their one provider versus another provider. We're trying to work with a preferred provider. We've actually interviewed 6 folks, and we're kind of starting to kind of have a dialogue with a preferred provider, and that's being led really by the academic institutions. So UK has a real interest in this because of their parking challenges. And so they're trying to kind of see how that might work for their campus. They've been in contact and coordinating with Transy and with BCTC, so that at least from a student population, the campuses and their private property, they have a good way of trying to coordinate this. We're working with the city to determine their process, and hopefully we'll see how that pans out. But I would say that probably sometime this spring, bike share will come to Lexington. The great thing about it is it's a zero cost to the city, and hopefully will ease in some ways some traffic and parking challenges, and hopefully be better for our businesses because it's easier to get to downtown and find a parking spot. And so we did this in Corpus Christi. It wasn't dockless, but that was one of the main reasons is we want people to make it easier to explore our downtown and to park at their final destination. So we'll see. You know, this isn't the easiest thing. We want to make sure we do it right as a city. And so I know the city side has spent a lot of time, and that we will be engaging the council moving forward to get their comfort as best we can and move forward. The interesting thing is, again, right now the way things are structured, and this is so in a lot of communities, you can't prevent the bike providers from coming. So we're trying to make sure that we give a preferred one kind of the first leg in so that they can establish and be successful. Any questions on that?
Yeah, will they be providing bike racks and stuff? Because there's not a lot downtown right now.
Yeah, that's something, we are working with the MPO to kind of be planning where,
Farmers market, definitely.
yeah.
Because
where
people
the-
cycle there all the time, there's nowhere to put your bike.
Yeah, where, you know, they put the initial sets of bike racks that you see around. These are actually dockless, meaning that they don't need a bike rack. And what's interesting now, the bikes are such that, you see they park upright. So they have double kickstands, so they don't lean, and so they can be parked better. And what's interesting about how these work is they incent good behavior and penalize bad behavior. So they can tell how a bike, because it's somehow how a bike is parked, and they have people rate the last person who parked it. And so there are ways, it's really interesting, you know, carrot and stick, how they get good behavior. So if you park it right, or if you re-park a bike for them, you'll get a free ride. So if you see a bike that's not parked right, so they do these things. You can't park it in a certain area because they'll geofence it. You can't actually end your ride. And so we'll work with them and Scott Thompson with MPO to figure out where the areas are that we don't want people to lock their bikes, you know, in their ride. That's what the campus is spending a lot of time doing right now, is determining where they do not want bikes parked. Because the beauty with bikeless is you can get a lot of bikes and you can get people to their destination real close. And there's dependability and what they call saturation. So you know you'll be able to find a bike and then use it. And by the way, the rates are really affordable. Let's talk a couple things. It's 50 cents per half hour. And then students and low-income folks, it is usually half that. So this is supposed to be something that's really accessible to the community and a community asset. But that's not to say it's all rosy. You know, there will be some things. Reason why that we are trying to work with a particular provider is we have greater comfort that they want to be a partner with the city and work hand in glove with that. By the way, it's a big employment opportunity. If they get to their full, the number of bikes that they would like in the community, that's probably 15, 20 folks that they will hire locally. And I think they said at a minimum of $15 an hour and going up from there. The managers are $50,000 to $70,000 a year. So it's not a, it's an employment thing, and but then they'll be held accountable. And what's great about these, the provider, not to go into too much detail, but if we go into an MOU, there's a 30-day cancellation. So if they're not reparking bikes quickly enough and doing things that are keeping the community working well, that you can cancel the MOU within 30 days. And that's really important for these campuses. So you don't think that they're going to want to make sure they keep campuses happy, because they can say, nope, sorry, you are barred from our campus. And so that's why we think it's really important to be partnering with the academic institutions, the campuses, because they will drive the market.
How was this different than what the city did years ago with the bike program? Yeah.
Well, these are set up so you can't just ride off.
So that's what this, you can't steal these bikes.
No, they're GPS, and I think if it's locked and you try to pick it up,
Yeah.
it starts screaming and shaking. And so it's got alarms on it. But they can also track it.
Oh, okay.
Technology. And they'll have, again,
Wow.
pretty large workforce on the ground, boots on the ground. So Yeah, we'll see. And by the way, it should be great for parks, right? Our steering committee is very large, diverse interests and things like that, from hospitality to academic institution, economic development organizations, Visit Lex, parks, the NPO, a number of city agencies. So we've given this a fair amount of thought, and we're still kind of tiptoeing through the process until we get the right comfort level at the city level. Good. All right. Oh,
Property improvement grants. So another joint project that funded by DLMD and the Downtown Partnership is the property improvement grants. And so we're excited that we've been able to launch this program and actually got our application process together. And the overall goal for this is, one, to provide an organized way for our stakeholders to come and request funds for things, property improvements, but also to provide an incentive and a way for our businesses downtown to start, fixing up their the front of their buildings, their outdoor dining, a lot of those capital things that really bring life to the street and provide a lot of the services we want to make the downtown vibrant. And so what the property improvement grant does is basically gives a really easy to apply for matching grant, capped at $10,000, that an application process that's less than 5 pages, that they can come in, apply, and then we can quickly review and get things done out on the street. And so we actually have the on-street improvements put in pretty fast. And so we started looking at, because this is a kind of a short period for the first round of the grant funding, it's a pool of $30,000. And so we started focusing around the pavilion, the Fifth Third Pavilion area and along Cheapside as just kind of a core area that if we could get several grants in that section in place at once, it would provide us kind of that big kind of pop that we could then market it beyond there. Our first round isn't limited to that area. That just happens to be who we've reached out to first, and then we're hoping that that helps us spread the word. And so we currently have one application in, one that should be in today, and then another 5 that are interested that we're meeting with and who are kind of in the process of figuring it out. And our general idea would be that we will get these in and actually have them start making improvements by May. And that gets us, we have things like Top Chef coming down to the area in May. We've got so much activities kicking off in the spring, the new courthouse opening, and hoping to leverage that investment the best we can. It really gives us a good incentive to get things done. So ideally, we'll re-up the grant again in July, the next fiscal year, and make this a recurring thing. So it's open to existing businesses, people starting new shops that may need a little boost. That's a pretty significant grant if you're opening up a new small business and needing to get things started with a little cushion.
Ethan, that's really delving a whole lot into what kind of improvements from the folks you've talked to and you're expecting?
No, that's a good question.
What kind of improvements are we going to probably be seeing?
It's a range of things. So some for a much higher quality outdoor dining improvements, and some lighting is another one that people are interested in. In some cases, refinishing doorways and facades are another thing. Where we have a number of, any historic buildings, you have to keep touching them up. That's just how they are. And then all the way to the scale of rebuilding an entryway and a doorway into.
Is there one on awning?
It was, except he's removing the awning completely. So that's a new thing. But some awnings are another option for places.
And what's your review process? You've obviously got more than you.
Sure. So that's a good point. One, the cap is $10,000. We may not award up to that amount for every one, but the review process is there's, I believe Tanya is our representative from the management district, and then a DLP board member will meet with staff and we'll review. So it's a fairly easy process.
Is it a merit thing or just a?
I'm making
end
sure that
result thing.
making sure that it meets kind of the goals of the grant program, and then taking into consideration how much funding we have and what we need to accomplish. But the nice thing about it is a lot of the places, even if we aren't awarding up to 10,000, in many cases they're doing work and projects that are much greater than that, and so we're leveraging it beyond one-to-one in most of these cases.
So they are putting their own money up too.
Correct.
And so the 30,000, refresh my memory, is it divided, are we putting in 50%, Terry, and the DLP's putting in 50%?
Yeah, so 15 and 15.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what's exciting is, as Ethan said, hopefully what's going to happen is that whole corridor here will be freshened all at once. And so what's cool about it is their investment in their property is being leveraged by the investment in the next door neighbor's property. And so it's really a good program. And as Ethan said, is I think the first project is probably going to be a $70,000 project. And we've talked with each of these property owners that are and business operators that are applying, that we said, look, for this first round, we're going to probably ration the dollars. So we can't max you out at 10, even though you would qualify, because we're trying to make an impact along the entire corridor for this first phase. And so what's great is their understanding of it. They're just really happy to be getting any support. But hopefully what we're doing is priming that pump and getting them to either, this is what's really good about these programs, is you want to get the application in and you go, oh, you're doing that? Well, you know what? Have you thought about this, or can you do this? And that way we're able to help guide the design and say, or have you thought about doing an additional thing? And so we're trying to help guide the design and what they're doing, and we have a list of what's eligible, but we're trying to maximize the visual impact and not just be doing deferred maintenance kinds of things. Right. And so it's going to be, I think, really impactful. It's going to help, so far, I think, 3 brand new businesses, one that's just opened, one that's not yet open, and one that's just changed ownership. So it's going to be a good first endeavor in this, a good result, we think, and hopefully, as we said, pretty quick.
Yeah, and word spreads fast, and so we'll get a lot of interest, especially as we move.
Terry,
between the
where
first
are we
ones
on
out.
the cleaning of the pavilion, like the glass and all that stuff? I know we were supposed to do that, right?
Yeah, I'm going to kick it down to either Laura or Catherine to update.
We are actually splitting the cost with Parks to have the pavilion windows cleaned. So that should be happening. Kathy, do you know
Kathy
when-
mentioned this morning, actually.
Not, it'll be next week. We're gonna try to start next week. We're actually doing the windows, the structure, and the surface of the.
So we're helping out with those costs.
Good. Any other questions? And we continue to have discussions with Parks and the city if there's any other ways we can continue to enhance it. But we'll see. This is at least the first phase. All right. Any other questions? Oh, branding process. So another partnership, right? So we both organizations, DLP, DLMD, put in dollars to do a branding process and web development process. And right now we're at the point that we've issued the RFP. We got 6 really good proposals in, and we interviewed 4 agencies, and we've actually gotten it down to 2 agencies. And who's helping us do that is Lisa and Steve Kelly. Lisa is the person representing the management district, Steve Kelly, the DLP. And then we have an advisory board that's really composed of a lot of marketer types of folks, among others. But so we have Mary Beth Wright from Messer Construction also helped us vet these agencies. So we're down to 2. We hope that by the end of this week we will make a selection. And so that means in May we'll start an engagement process and brand development process and hopefully complete somewhere around July 31st. And I just kind of want to kind of set the set the vision of this process. It will reflect a lot the way we just are doing the plan development process, right? We'll have a kickoff reception telling people what is this brand development and website. So we'll kind of say, here's what we're going to do. Here's some thoughts, ideas, help us, are we heading in the right track? And this is what we hope to accomplish from it. And then we'll have focus groups, probably about 6 or 8 focus groups meetings. So we'll begin to get feedback and test what people's ideas are as far as what is downtown, how is it relevant to you as a stakeholder, a customer, a visitor, a resident, and help that feed into how we develop a brand. And then we'll develop a website based upon that, marketing plan and social media tools, and that'll begin to roll out into July, beginning of August. And Lisa, anything?
Well, just kind of what Carrie said, that we met last Wednesday and Thursday with 4 companies and narrowed it down to 2 really good ones. It was pretty intense interviewing and stuff. It was good, and hopefully by next week we'll have somebody.
We actually have a meeting following this.
Yep, keeping us busy.
Kind of continue that, because we're trying to be really thorough in our vetting. Brett and Catherine have been following up on references of each of the organizations that we're looking at. And so it's kind of really been a team effort, and we're trying to be as thorough as possible, making sure that we make the right decision and back the right course. Is that the way to say here in Lexington?
What's the economic commitment on
Yeah.
this portion of it alone? Is there a...
Yeah, so the total budget is
Yeah.
up to $75,000. DLMD provided 45, DLP is 30.
Is that funded, is that a one-time expense, or
Yes.
is that an, okay,
Yeah,
so it's
so
just...
that'll be, so the deliverables are a brand and everything that goes with a brand, you know, logo, tagline, style guidelines, a whole bunch of stuff that's not very interesting. And then a website, social media tools, and a strategic marketing plan. The marketing plan we put this in to include. We may say, no, you know what, based upon the feedback we're getting, we don't need to do that. But it can include a mobile app, what are called 10 and 30-second radio ads with donuts. That's not something you eat, but anyway. And then a 30-second TV ad. Now we might say, hey, guess what? TV is really expensive. We can't afford to do that. So instead of using the resources to do that, let's put them over here. But we'll have a set of deliverables. And then with the marketing plan, then we'll know what we'll be doing in the next fiscal year and what to budget, and then we'll be ready to go.
Are you going to get rid of my purple shirts?
I don't know. Those are pretty attractive.
I really like
But you never
purple
know.
shirts. Tanya liked them too. Speak up. Say something.
I
Thank you, Tanya. It's all about
I
it.
agree.
Tanya agrees. Thank you, Tanya. Thank you.
Let the record show.
It depends what people say, but it could be hot pink. You never, I don't know.
No.
Good point. Okay.
Spring cleanup. So the other side of the coin in downtown operations from the safety side is the cleanliness side, which is obviously a big focus that you've seen from the several tons of trash that David's picked up to the other general maintenance items. But one of the things that we'd like to do is at least once a year, annually, and then potentially in the fall at some point as well, is a concentrated effort on the maintenance, cleanliness of downtown. And so it's something that's sort of done already, that Parks has kind of their spring, I guess initiatives isn't the right word, but kind of your checklist of jobs. And then you have a lot of other departments doing different things. But we wanted to step in and really take a really detailed look at downtown, what needs to be done, what needs to be touched up. And that goes beyond just picking up the litter, but it can be anything from damaged signs to fire hydrants that need painted to curbs. And it's things that a lot of different organizations do. And so it's really a partnership of agencies, both from the city, water company, our organization itself. And we want to look at that, one, help communicate what needs to be done to some of the city departments who just or in the case of the water company, who are happy to paint fire hydrants if you tell them what needs to be done. And so we're looking at this spring, which presumably will someday come, of doing a kind of a spring cleanup and looking at a lot of these issues. And so the way we broke it down was we have kind of this larger area of the management district and the connections to the universities that we really want to focus on and bring that attention to detail towards. That's a pretty big area, and so at least early on, we want to focus kind of on a first zone, and really we have it broken up into several zones that we'll each rotate around and get to. But concentrating kind of in the core area first, essentially from Broadway over to Limestone and second down to High Street. And what that would involve is getting into all the nooks and crannies of leaves, coordinating with our Visit Lex on signs that need to be replaced. Again, fire hydrants. Curb painting is going to be starting soon. Dow Hoskins Squire's office is getting their lists together of what will have to happen for curb painting and crosswalk painting. And then, and so we want to try this May to really come in and do a concentrated effort to address a lot of these things. And so, last month in March, we sat down with a lot of the city departments, with parks, streets and roads, a lot of our other partners there, just to talk about what's happening and what areas they can address and what we'll need to address. We've done an initial walkthrough and evaluation, kind of marking up block by block of what has to happen. And so essentially we number all the block faces, look, say, okay, we have a sign that needs replaced here. Some of the other partners on this are the private property owners who may have stuff that they need to do that are either code violations or deferred maintenance that we just have to say, hey, can you take a look at your broken doorway or whatever that might be. This month, we'll take what we've gathered from those evaluations, report back the things that are appropriate to the city, to them, things that are appropriate to others, to private property owners. And then, I say in April, really a lot of the city work has already begun. Kathy's already hit a lot of her plantings and tree wells, things like that. But we'll also start to organize volunteers so that we can provide an extra push in a lot of these areas where we really need to get in, clean up dirt, nooks, crannies. And then hopefully in May, we'll launch some of these volunteer cleanups and really just block by block hit these areas. And so that when we're done, there's a really significant difference of the work that the city's done with Kathy's plantings to the painted curbs to painted hydrants. And once we do that, we'll revisit it yearly or twice a year so that we keep that up. Ideally, you can have something like Keeneland opening or something like that kind of as an incentive to set a timeline to get things done, and maybe we can do that in the future. But that's a little bit trickier this year, both just because we're kind of starting a little bit later, and also we really need the weather to break for us a little bit. That would be really helpful.
So organizing volunteers, who are you reaching out to? What's the pool for that?
So we have some that, one through our open house, we had a volunteer list that was people could sign up for. We've had some contacts with the universities of hopefully getting some students involved, and we'll gradually start to reach out through there. And then Visit Lex also offered to help raise some volunteers as well, and they have lists of people that they.
Do you want to keep Lexington?
Oh, and yeah, of course, and Keep Lexington Beautiful, and kind of the American in Bloom type programs that we'll work on as well. So, it's not always the most exciting stuff, but it makes a huge impact once we get it done. It's worth the time.
And just a real quick thing. So if you can kind of think to the end of May, that hopefully we have a kind of a beautified Cheapside and Pavilion, and then this deep clean, putting the lipstick on at least zone 1 of the downtown, where hopefully it'll just kind of it'll all of a sudden bloom, like flowers do. That area will bloom. And once we're done with that zone 1, then we'll go to the next thing and the next thing until we get all of the downtown done. The other thing is we will have a communications plan, and the management district has to have kind of a presence there in the communications plan, meaning that, hey, this is a partnership between our 2 organizations, and we're at the table helping improve the area surrounding your businesses and your property. So we'll work through that. The other thing is, as you talk about volunteers, there's always an opportunity to have a visible impact to say the leadership of these organizations are also rolling up their sleeves and getting after it. And that can be fun. A lot of times what we've did in Corpus Christi, ours is called, I think I mentioned, Paint the Town Tuesdays. Because we actually had volunteers paint the curbs, and then we had pizza and beer afterwards. So it could be that we have that type of thing for the board. One day our 2 boards get together and we take 2 hours and we go do this, and then go back to the pavilion or something and relax after a hard day's work. So anyway, we'll get, we have obviously a lot of planning to do, but that might be something. Again, we have to continue to be impactful, to give positive return on investment to our stakeholders, but we also got to start being a little more visible of what we're doing, and to show an army of you helping, I think, is going to be as impactful as anything we can do. With that, then we got just a series of additional operations reports, and so I'll just turn it over to a couple different folks. David, do you want to go first?
Well, you guys pretty much covered everything. But I will have the safety ambassadors ready to start on the 15th. And I mean, unless anyone had any questions for me, like I said, Terry, he's been pretty covered up everything pretty good. Unless anyone had a question for me. Oh, but I did want to ask about an area of responsibility. Are we responsible for anything along the convention center? Is that like the say the sidewalk on Broadway between High and Vine Streets? Do we do any cleaning along there? Is that an area that we touch or?
Well, doesn't the district cover the Civic Center? But I don't know how far it goes out.
That's what I can.
Yeah, do you have that map again you showed?
Red line is the district.
Red line?
Okay.
It covers it.
I just wanted to be sure it's like, it was just like they're not cleaning it at all, the convention center. So once we started doing it, we do it, but as far as being real thorough with it, we haven't, but we've been cleaning it. I just wanted to make sure we didn't do too much over here.
Before I got into doing it, I would have a conversation with either Bill Owen or Carl Hall to see what their plans are, pointed out to them, instead of us having to take, that's a lot of property to take
That's a
on.
lot.
Don't they have a pretty good sizable workforce over there themselves? I mean, I don't know. I'm
If
just
you walk
asking.
around, it's workforce not really getting out there.
Well, I think, yeah,
Stuff sitting up-
talk to those 2 guys, one of those 2 guys, David, before we get too committed. I don't want to, yeah.
Yeah, for reference, I know where David worked when he worked in Louisville, the convention center, because they were government property and not a ratepayer. For a while, they paid it in lieu of service, but for a long time, the ambassadors there didn't touch the convention center property. And that may not be the case here, but it's kind of a little bit of a...
Well, they did make a voluntary contribution when we first started off. I can't remember the exact amount, but it was it, remember? I don't know. It was 15 or 30. It was significant, but Bill Owen did it. But I would talk to those guys and see. Okay.
Does anyone know when Grass Park is supposed to open back up? April.
Yeah, I think they're running behind. I think it's okay.
Sound close.
Terry, I think some pictures during the process of putting the lipstick on everything would be good, and then we could even compile like a video to share with the stakeholders, like down the road on this is before, this is after, this is all the photos, this is all the team doing it, this is all the people working together for the end product, and I think the video would be really cool to share.
Good point. And what's great is Brett manages a team of interns, and this year we actually have a photography and video intern.
All right.
So among all the things that they do, he at our events, he's the person to record and stuff. So we'll make sure to do that.
Special events.
Okay. Special event.
Okay, so I handed out the Central Bank Thursday Night Live schedule. We kick off tomorrow, April 5th. We'll go every week through October 11th. That is a 28-week season. The only street closure, or lane closure rather, is the lane closest to the Fifth Third Pavilion on Short between Mill and Upper will be closed between 4 and 10 every Thursday for event, like production load in and that kind of thing. So shouldn't have too much of an impact. We've had that closure for several years. Police bless it every year, so we should be good. Moving forward, in May, the second weekend of May, we have the Mayfest Arts Fair at Gratz Park, 3rd Street, Mill, and Market in that area. I know that kind of falls out of our domain here at DLMD, but I'll have exact closures times and everything at the next meeting. And then in July, you guys may have seen on Monday, we announced the 4th of July fireworks launch site. And I believe we let you guys in on that a few months ago, but we'll be launching them from the Financial Center. So it's kind of like this picture up here, but just take those fireworks, like scooch them up a little. That was the RJ Corman lot. So yeah, so that won't be what we're doing. But we're really excited about that. We have encountered a few questions from tenants in the building. So if you guys hear anything, just in your out and about kind of representing, just let us know. I think a lot of people don't realize that DLP is the organization behind a lot of the logistics. So they call the mayor's office, or and that's fine. We get those calls too. But if people want to just come straight to the source, that's what we're there for. And we'll have, of course, lots of street closures that whole couple of days, and I'll have all that information moving forward. If you need it prior to that, shoot me an email, laura@downtownlex.com. Thanks.
Everyone I've talked to is thrilled.
So are we.
Really.
So are we.
No
So
one's been negative about it.
it's going to be phenomenal, I think. So, thank you.
So last item on that, new projects in construction. And I wanted to, when we get kind of a double, I guess, count both pieces of that with this picture, is the Krikorian site is underway, but more impactful across the entire downtown is this time of year, a lot of our utility companies start getting into sewer repairs, gas line repairs, and there's manhole repairs. There's constant lane closures, if not completely street closures. And so the sewer repair right here, you can see them going as far as putting in the entirely new lines. But what I want everyone to pay close attention to, and sorry, this is kind of a long link, but the city does a really excellent job in daily postings of which street lanes are going to be closed. And so right now, some of the big ones are around 2nd and 3rd Street, Eastern Avenue, Broadway, up around 5th, and Midland, around Winchester Road. You'll see a lot of construction work. But this site right here, the city's traffic office keeps up to date multiple times a day. And so they will give you the very specific lane that's closed, also linked to traffic cams, so that you can find out and see exactly what's happening in real time. And then break it down in terms of alerts, things that are like a roadway being shut down from down to electric lines, so which there may be a few of those this morning. Collisions, as well as the actual scheduled items. And so as we talk with our branding through the branding process and get our communications plan together, we'll start figuring out the best way to share the downtown-centric ones on our site and partner with them to spread that news, whether through social media or however we do that. But in the meantime, do pay attention to this, because it really can be a big help for what they do. And I don't know how well it's publicized, or if people really actively use it as much as they probably should. But the city guys are doing a great job of keeping this up to date, and so please take a look at it.
All right, do we have any, you
doing parking or
I
something?
will. I got just a few things. We were referring to the historic courthouse earlier. I had a meeting yesterday with several city leaders, and good news for us and merchants in that area. As you all know, when the courthouse was under construction, Upper Street, the meters were taken out when the fence went around, and we moved. There were 7 meters on Upper Street across from 21C. We moved them north a block, and the lane shifts to 1 lane right there. So if you're coming south on Upper Street, as you approach Short, it was always 2 lanes. It shifts over to 1 lane, and there's a set of meters there. We get to keep those, which is good because we lost some meters behind the courthouse in the setup. You know, the site plan has a larger loading zone on Short Street. So it's maybe a net of 1 or 2 meters, but we're going to keep that. Traffic engineering was fine with the way that flows. So we've got 7 meters back right next to the courthouse, and then the 7 meters that were looked at as temporary, a block up. We're being able to keep those. That's cool. There's a lot of another thing that's really cool about the historic courthouse and Limestone Hall is their events that I think everybody's aware they've booked up the whole year. So there's an interesting phenomenon on Saturdays where the farmers market has always had access to being able to pull the farmers up. So that loading zone that was created for Limestone Hall and other things going on there on Short Street to the historic courthouse, farmers get that. So if you're doing an event, we're moving them on around to the Upper Street, and so we're going to work on a no parking on Saturdays on those Upper Street meters to enable the events and things that would happen. So just a little project there. Also, the cool thing for the parking authority is we're going to be kind of the designated parking location at the Victorian Square Garage for events at the courthouse. So we're going to work on a validation program. So if you book a wedding or a reception or something, we'll be kind of the go-to parking location. So that's kind of good news for us and good for them to have a place to recommend. One thing I wanted to bring out too, just looking at some stats here recently, most of you know about our Pay by Phone app. If you haven't used it, you should have, and if you haven't used it, somebody is, because we had 115,000 transactions in 2017 on the app. 2 years ago it was only 50,000, so it's doubled in 2 years, so people are getting used to it, people are using it. What you don't realize about our numbers is that's only 10% of meter transactions, and what we would like to see is more people using it. It's convenient. If you're a business person, you can print off your monthly receipts. If you're in a meeting that you thought was going to last an hour and you paid an hour, it can remind you and you can add time. That'll save you a $15 ticket. So we like to continue to promote it. It's good for everybody. But it was pretty cool to see that 115,000 transactions happened there last. And then last, just some.
Not one in Chevy Chase.
Right.
Tell Farmer that's
They're old school. They're still dropping quarters in the meter.
They're in the quarters. That's right.
And then we're knee deep in RFPs, and much to the chagrin of Fraser and I, we'd rather not have to do RFPs, but we have to as a government entity. So you all heard about our best practices and operational audit. I think Terry mentioned a little bit. We had a team come in from a company called Kimley Horn that are very well respected around the nation. We should be getting something back from them soon on what they observed. They watched us run events. They watched us collect our money, deposit our money. They talked about programs. And then one of the things that they're doing right now, we just had a phone call with them, but they are going out to some of our peer cities. So cities like Chattanooga, Omaha, Lincoln, Nebraska, Louisville, just because we're in this, the similar region. I think there's 5 cities. They're gonna just sort of look at some peer review and best practices that maybe they're applying that we're not, or things that we can learn from them. So we'll get a report back from that. And then we also have engineering consultants out putting together a plan for us to start spending millions of dollars on the garages on restoration. There will be jackhammering happening sometime this year in a garage near you, much again to our chagrin. But it's very expensive. It continues to be a learning lesson how unbelievably expensive it is to operate and own parking garages. But we want to keep them safe and clean and well lit and all the things that we want for the reasons that we all talk about at this one. And then last, our RFP that we have right now is a little bit sensitive, can't talk about it a lot, but we want everybody to know that about 3 to 5 years we put out the management contract RFP. And the contractor that's currently in our system has had it two go around. So we started in 08, we did another one around 13 or 14, and it's time again to do it again. So we're really happy. We have 5 national companies that have put in RFPs that want to work here in our city. They like the Lex Park program has gotten a lot of national recognition, and companies want to be a part of what we do here. So we're reading them. I'm sure, Fraser, you're reading through them, right? So we have to meet next week as a committee and try to narrow it down to a couple to come back in and do presentations. But it'd be neat to see ambassadorial approaches that other companies would bring to the table, and things that we can do to help visitors experience a better situation in our parking. So more to come on all that. That's it.
For those of you who don't know, you should. Gary's taken the parking authority to a whole nother level. We're looked at as one of the leading parking authorities in the nation because of him. So we're very fortunate to have him, and these companies want to come in because of him. So well done.
We have an awesome board.
Well,
I'm serious, we couldn't do it.
Got a weak chair, but everybody else is pretty good. That's right. That's right.
Other than that.
Anything else on parking, Gary?
No, I'm good. Let's see
Good
if I have
there.
anybody.
Any questions for Gary? Anybody? One thing I wanted to announce, Kate had her presentation last board meeting about Paint the Town, and the executive committee of this board met and talked to Terry, and though, Kate, we support you wholeheartedly, we are willing to commit some dollars. We can't do 10,000, but we've offered to partner with DLP. We each put in $1,000, so hopefully 2 will get you something. It's better than a poke in the eyes, we would say. So thank you for your efforts, and we applaud you, and we look forward to the success. And anything we can do to help going forward, call Tanya. That's right. So anything else? Did you like that one? All right. Anybody else have anything before we adjourn? Is the meeting going to be moved next month, or are we still on task? What are we doing here?
Well, it's scheduled for
May
2nd.
Yeah, the regular schedule, I think we might consider the 16th. And why would that be? May 2nd may not give us enough time to get all the plan together that we need to in the engagement, especially one-on-one meetings to make sure that you're all are comfortable. The next week, May 8th, 9th, and 10th is the Commerce Lexington trip. So I would make a recommendation and see if we can move it to the 16th. And then the DLP board meeting is Monday the 21st, is that right? Yeah. So that way, by that 21st, we'd have hopefully a plan approved. So that would be what I hope to try to have happen.
Okay. Does anybody have any great problem with us moving that date to May the 16th? Those of you who are here, we'll send out notifications. So don't think that this is going to be your only shot at it, because to remind all, because it's on everybody's calendar already. Yeah. So make sure we all get the notifications.
Can I ask one quick question?
Sure.
Along that same line, at times we've talked about, do we still need to meet it, which is where I thought you were going with that question initially. Are we at that stage yet?
I thought we were, but I can't leave it to Terry.
So once we get the plan approved, then I think, and a contract approved, then I think you guys can decide, okay, do we meet bi-monthly or quarterly? And we're reporting on, here's our progress on what we said we were going to do, and stuff like that. So I think maybe once we get into the new fiscal year, that's when we kind of hopefully have our ducks in a row. We understand where the direction we're headed, how we'll be held accountable, and what the contractual relationship is.
And I'm going to say one more thing, and it's probably not going to be the popular thing to say in this room, but I'm going to say it. From a procurement standpoint, have we given any thought before we reissue some kind of contract to RFPing for these services to make sure what's out there and to show that we've done due diligence in the spending of this organization?
Fair question.
And I'm not pointing anything. I think the service has been great. Right. But I'm just saying, when you're starting to spend that money, should you not go through a formal Gary was just talking about the process he's gone through numerous times. And I mean, we go through it every day at City Hall. It just seems like it's the right thing to do to me.
Do you normally, I know it probably is case by case, do you normally let it run one cycle or 2 cycles before you do it, or is it just every time a cycle runs out, you do it again?
Depends what the contract from the previous cycle said.
Yeah.
They're usually, a lot of them have a one renewal kind of option on them.
We do at the parking.
But, in our case, I don't think we've ever done one here, have we?
I mean, other than the initial one we did, which was, that was it. Yeah.
And I'm not pointing anything, I'm,
Right, just understand.
but I just,
That's a good question, so maybe we'll chat further of, there's two ways to kind of look at this is that if you approve a plan, all those plan services are just what you say you want to do. What you're paying an entity for is only the $40,000 because all the other funds are passing through to doing what you want to do. So just make sure you understand that. It's not like you're allocating $400,000 or whatever to an entity. You're putting it to these services that are identified in a plan, and there's a management fee that's associated with
and
that.
it's the 40,000 management fee that I'm basically referring to.
Well, again, not pointing any fingers either. Tony and I were talking. I mean, we've exponentially raised up our expenditure, and even though I know that we have to spend money to make money, to brand, to get ourselves out there, I do think that we need to be stewards of these folks' money, and I would like to be able to say that we are getting the best bang for the buck, and I feel like we are, but it's really probably not a bad idea. Yeah, because we're going to have to come before you all soon for the approval of the new budget, and we're going to have to sit down and talk, because we got a lot of moving parts here. It's going to be a lot different than it has been, looks like.
And another way you could think about it is how you did it last time is just a resolution. Like if someone came for an art project and said, hey, we have a request for this, and that if you don't want to do a contract, you can say, hey, let's pass a resolution that authorizes us to do this, and for that, we're going to pay you that. So that's where we have to look at what the city's process is, making sure we're compliant with that.
It's worth a conversation to have. Anything else? Kate?
Just a quick update on book benches. I have this plaque because it didn't stick, and so I had to clean it up. I'm going to go stick it again. We have our prototype out in front of Joe Rosenberg's on the corner of Martin Luther King and Main Street. I hope you've all seen it. Mosquito Land, a local author, David Arnold, a young adult book that has been designed by Blake Ames, also a Lexington artist. The logos will be actually in color. This is temporary because it's with our prototype, and then it'll have, when the benches go out at the beginning of June, which should coincide with a lot of other things like your cleanup, and so there should be really quite a ground surge at the end of May, beginning of June, because we'll have 35 benches going out that first week of June, which will really create a lot of buzz, I'm sure. All right, thank you. And thanking him for the money for the benches and also for Paint the Town. I hope you'll all receive invitations. Thank you.
Thomas, do you have something?
I just don't want us to forget about the tree wells. If we're going to be able to budget some of those this year, because I'm afraid they're going to get lost in the fog. And whatever we can budget, we can do a third of half of them. David, I think said 20. What the number you said really needed to be done.
The ones on, I think it was a total of 20, 21 about that. And I know we won't be able to do all of them.
No.
And I don't know if we'll be able to get the management district and the city might partner up doing it. Possibly, I don't know. Because it'll be a substantial amount of money if we try to do all of them ourselves.
It just looks so good. It's made such a difference there on upper.
I would just to go on what Thomas is saying, is add to it is maybe it's part of a 3-year plan, and pick out a way to affordably do and make a difference. There's nothing probably more important than clean and safe, and especially on our sidewalks. And I think it's a very valid. It's gone over great. It makes these sidewalks so much more safer and cleaner looking. So if we can figure out a way to incorporate an affordable approach to it.
Thank you all. Thanks, Thomas. Anything else, anybody? I guess we'll stand adjourned then. Thank you all very much for coming. Good meeting.